to the latest episode of Insurance Coded Cards, brought to you by Insurance Post and Insurance Age. And today we're going to be focusing on the insurance supply chain and what some of the companies are doing in the supply chain to keep the sector going. I'm delighted to say, joining me today, I have the Copart UK Managing Director, Jane Pocock, Iprosurv owner and co-founder, Becky Jones, Minster Law CEO, Shirley Woolham, and finally, Crawford & Company's UK and Ireland President, Lisa Bartlett. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Hi.
So, Jane, if I can come first to you, can I just ask you, how do you think the relationship between insurers, brokers and corporate clients has changed since lockdown?
Well, talking from our personal perspective, we found our relationships have got a lot stronger. We were fortunate that we were deemed an essential service. So we had to react very, very quickly in ensuring that we could protect our people while still collecting sort of the majority of the total loss vehicles around the country. From my perspective, having several locations meant that we could keep our people self-distancing and in a safe environment. And also in the event that we did have an incident at one yard, we would be able to sort of close it and disperse the vehicles to other yards. We made a decision, we sort of took government advice on how best to operate. And then we had to close our facilities to the people that would normally collect our vehicles to provide a safe environment. But we carried on collecting on behalf of insurers. Our process is very digital anyway, by the nature of what we do. Our assignments are digital. The journey that we have is a complete online sort of event. So we weren't too interrupted, which was really fortunate. The only sort of major change we made was, rather than people coming to collect vehicles that they'd bought through our salvage auctions, we switched it to deliveries. So we carried on pretty much business as usual for us, just with a layer of extra protection for our people and a delivery service. So we managed within sort of 48 hours to switch from collections to deliveries with our digital platform, and so far so good. You know, we've been operating with that protocol, albeit in a slightly downturn marketplace. You know, from a market, we're probably doing about 40% of the workload that we would have normally been doing at this time of year. But yeah, I would absolutely say, going back to your original question, that our relationships are much, much stronger, and you know, the insurers have praised us for how we've been able to continue when pretty much the rest of the country has been in entire lockdown, you know, bar the medical services and things like that. So yeah, so really, I'm really pleased with how we've responded, and I'm seriously proud of the people that work for us and how they've carried on, you know, and we hope that, you know, things will pick up soon.
Lisa?
I'd echo the strengthening of relationships like Jane. So I think this crisis has really changed how we engage with our clients. So we are engaging more regularly, more meaningfully, so, you know, much more transparent, and we're having much more strategic engagement than we've ever had before. And of course, the crisis always does accelerate the pace. I think going alongside that, the clients have really valued the integration of technology. So the market was ready for change. So I think if you think about technology, improved engagement, that lays a good foundation for innovation for the future.
Shirley?
I'd agree. I think we've always benefited from strong relationships, but and agree with both Jane and Lisa around the acceleration of the strategic conversation. But I think I've been more interested in the human aspect of the developing relationship. The communication has increased exponentially, not just at an operational level, as our teams work really collaboratively to find ways of overcoming any issues that might stop us progressing services for our joint customers, but also at a senior level, as from a leadership perspective, we've shared experiences, perspectives, learnings that all of our organisations have had. to help us respond better to the crisis. I think that values proposition that would never be more transparent than it is now in the crisis will really help our business partners to make judgments of the kind of organisations they want to work with. It's not just around how you've managed to keep services going, I think. I think it's as important how we've treated our colleagues, the extent to which we've gone out of a way to make sure service still continues with customers, our approach to risk and ongoing resilience. So I think relationships between the insurance and broking partners and supply chains will have been made or broken in terms of how responses have been played out over the last 6 to 8 weeks.
And finally, I'll come to you, Becky.
Just reiterate what Lisa, Jane and Shirley have said. Most definitely we've seen a strength in our relationships with our adjusters and also our insurers. We've probably seen a little bit more pull from in terms of what we do. Technology is kind of at the core of our business. Traditionally where we would have probably been seen in floods and major loss, clients are definitely more willing to explore the drone capability just from the remoteness in terms of site isolation and observing social distancing rules. But yes, most definitely we've seen much more stronger relationships. And from a communication perspective, totally agree on what you've said, Shirley, in terms of communicating with your clients. It's adapting and talking to your clients a lot more in terms of what we're able to offer, how we can enhance those relationships, how we can enhance what they do on site. So again, to the question, Jonathan, yeah, absolutely. We've definitely seen a strengthening in those relationships.
Becky, I mean, you've touched on technology and so have some of the other people on this COVID cast. How has tech helped you kind of continue making things as business as usual as humanly possible? And what has been the biggest challenge to actually maintaining that BAU?
So from Iprosurv's perspective, technology is at the core of what we do. So when we founded Iprosurv, we work on a remote basis. We built systems, we built the infrastructure, we deal with big data. One of the only challenges that we've probably seen is just an adaptation from a regulation point of view. We have to consider from a site safety and risk mitigation perspective. So it was just working with our regulator, the CAA, to see how that looks like. How can we make our deployments easy? How do we manage all the regulation in terms of the permissions that we need? How can we make ourselves more effective? What it has kind of shown us is that our regulator is actually open to proving a case to them. If you can prove the case in terms of site safety, that they are open to listening to commercial companies to help move the industry forward and continue business as usual.
Lisa?
This is undoubtedly a logistical challenge for me, so of mammoth proportions, I would say. So 1,200 staff with more than 30 sites. We moved to home working in a 2-week period, which I think is tremendous. Now, I have to say, I think the industry has done well here because it has transformed the thinking about home working and what can be done when you put your mind to it. So for me, that was absolutely the biggest challenge. And I think to maintain our operation and maintain engagement. So, you know, we've had to deploy Microsoft Teams across that bigger population. So super proud of what we've done, but also proud of what the industry has done too.
Jane?
Okay, well, being that we're sort of a global business, we already were quite advanced in using kind of having Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams. So we've always had that regular sort of communication. And although we are sort of on the ground in logistics business, we're also very much a tech business. So from the moment we're assigned a car, it's a digital journey. So we're assigned a car, we have apps that organise collection of the cars. We have scripts that we run through. We then assign a driver to collect a car, then comes back to one of our yards where it's documented and photographed. So all of that as a digital journey. We then get the vehicle ready to go through a sale process. which is sort of akin to eBay in the sense that, you know, we're taking photographs of all the total loss vehicles. We're categorizing them, so we have a team of engineers that can work from the photographs, and then we present the vehicle ready for sale, and our auction sort of kicks off midday every day, which is also a virtual environment. So we're very lucky that this hasn't disrupted what we do fundamentally. And then we're just, once the vehicle is sold, through the auction process, we can collect the money online, and then organise the delivery in a virtual space. So our sort of human interaction is very much just around collection, photographing the vehicle, and then the delivery process. And then where we have staff that have not been involved in that operational process, they have all reverted to home working. Fortunately, we did have a lot of people that were out in the field that worked from home anyway, but our head office, where we did sort of some of our processing, we managed within a sort of space of 4 days, our IT companies worked around the clock, our IT staff, to ensure that people could go home. So we were able to initiate that in a very short space of time. And again, like everyone else has alluded to, we've become a lot closer. We're part of people's lives now because we're in their houses. You know, we're meeting people's families, and it's great. You know, the same with our suppliers. We're integrated at all levels with our insurance partners, and we very much see our relationship as a partnership. So outside of the digital journey that we provide, you know, we're very engaged, and we're a very social crew. So we've tried to maintain that as much as possible with kind of virtual pub gatherings, and just tried to make the kind of experience as fun as possible. But definitely concur with what everyone else has said. It's definitely made our relationship stronger and deeper, and you know, in a period in our life I think we'll never forget. So for that, you know, it's and being at the head of an organisation, you know, clearly we've taken responsibility very seriously of keeping people safe, you know, with what is an invisible situation. So again, you know, we've invested in as much protection equipment as we can, to ensure that anyone who's in an exposed position is looked after. So I think, you know, we've done everything we can, and we're just reviewing the situation on a daily basis. We created a team of all my senior management, and we actually called it the Cobra Room, and everyone was appointed a function, and we made sure that we communicated effectively with everybody internally and externally, and we revisited all our processes. You know, we updated our business continuity plans. So again, it's been a really good time for us to consolidate and review everything really, and the virtual environment has definitely enabled more focus on that, because you know I realise now how much time I spent travelling, and I've definitely been able to give people better quality time and commitment to what we do, and you know I'm hoping that really doesn't change. So yeah, all round, you know, a great learning experience.
And finally, Shirley.
Well, similarly to the rest of the guys on the call, that we built our business based on technology, which might sound like an odd thing to say as a law firm, but we've approached every decision in the past around making sure that digital and tech perspective overlays our decision making. So I guess unsurprisingly, as a result, we didn't have the complexity of the multiple site that Lisa talked to, but we were able to get home working employed really quickly. And all that good stuff that comes with it. Everybody in our business has laptops and are raring to go and are productive. I guess a couple of observations from me to your question was, what's been slightly more complicated but encouraging signs of collaboration as a result has been that because the supply chain, certainly around claims, is multifaceted with many different organisations, there are different levels of adoption of technology across that supply chain, which has made life slightly harder or easier depending on how high that adoption of technology is. I can think specifically, for example, of the civil justice system, which in those few instances where cases go to court, the ability for the justice system to use technology has varied. So some of our cases have slowed down, unfortunately. Similarly, obviously, a lot of the rehabilitation and medical support provided in a claim, personal injury claim specifically, is hands-on. So there has been a hiatus in claims progression as organisations in the sector try and work out how we still do that. But I guess my lasting reflection on technology is I think all of us could probably talk to that bit of our business that has been enabled or kept going by technology. I think, to be honest, you can talk about APIs all your life, but it's the heart blood of the culture that's really worked in our business, and no amount of Microsoft Teams enablement or APIs or remote logons or system connectivity can compensate for the conversations and the productivity in our business has been as much sustained by giving our colleagues confidence that their jobs are enduring as it has the technology that underpins the work that they provide.
So surely I'm getting a good sense here that the deeper relationships are being formed during this lockdown. Do you think the relationship between yourselves in the supply chain and partners, whether it's insurance brokers, whoever, is actually going to change post COVID-19?
Well, they say, don't they, that necessity is the mother of all invention, and never has the circumstances been right. Hello, cat. Never has. It's usually my dog coming through the door, so I feel a little bit vindicated now. Never has the timing been right to accelerate the collaboration that's really been at the heart of what we've tried to do in our sector for a while. We do have strong relationships with some of our third-party insurers, which in our sector is typically quite adversarial. With the advent of COVID, we've seen the Association of British Insurers and AXA, our trade association, come up with a series of principles for the first time ever in our industry of how the claimant and the defendant sector are going to collaborate to do things differently to make sure that cases will progress. There's been huge headways made in terms of the deployment of technology in the customer claims process that up until COVID would not have been accepted, and appropriate reduction in risk appetite. I'm really, really hopeful of the green shoots that have emerged through COVID, and I think it would be an absolute travesty if people took a step back, particularly if that step back is just to hold on to legacy business models that fundamentally need to change anyway.
Jane?
I think that from my perspective, sort of looking to the future, I think that we insurers will see who supported them through this time. They'll see who had tried and tested processes, and which organisations were the strongest. And I think that will that will remain with them, and how we've adapted process. In our particular situation, most of our management information is real time and is again in a virtual portal. So we've been able to continue the collaboration as we always have, and our information has been available online. So where insurers have had to revisit their risk, look at the impact on the claims process, and look at the impact on claims volumes, so they can make their own decisions around their workforce and their workload, our information has been immediately available to them, and we pride ourselves on the volume of management information that we store. So I think from my perspective, we've sort of come through this in a very strong position, and it has just emphasised the strength of our partnerships. And we've had calls sort of morning, noon, and night to help our partners make decisions. And some, in our line of work, some of the changes have been around repairers that were unable to operate because they had some staff, showing signs, and that had to shut down operations. We've taken in extra vehicles that we perhaps wouldn't have normally done, and because we have got the biggest land capacity in our sector, we have got available space, so we've been able to store vehicles, temporarily, or put them through our process. So we've adapted, and I think the fact that we've been able to do that, and we've picked up sort of new customers in the process, and we are also sort of branched out into other sectors outside of insurance, around retail, and rental vehicles, fleet vehicles that are under finance, where vehicles have had to be collected because finance hasn't been paid, or repossessions, things like that. Again, there are areas that we've touched on in the past that we've now been able to elaborate. So I think it's all round been, you know, a strengthening of our position, and I think going forward, the fact that we've been able to operate in a virtual environment and yet do a logistics operation, I think has really shown us in good light. So yeah, I'm looking forward to future conversations, and like everyone said, you know, it's been a real strengthening of relationships and collaboration, and I'm hoping that going forward, the aspects that we've learned around our virtual meeting spaces, and some of the bids that we've done, and segmented sort of presentations that we would have normally done in person, you know, there's absolutely no reason why these can't continue in a virtual environment and give our teammates, you know, better quality of life in future, so they're not setting off at 5 a.m. for a meeting. You know, we can conduct it in a virtual environment, and I really hope that that's something that we can maintain, you know, for the future. And you know, like Shirley said, we don't just revert to type. So I hope that this has gone on long enough for us to have changed some of our behaviours.
Becky?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with what you've just said. I think from Iprosurv's perspective, or the drone industry perspective, we've always kind of had a challenge in terms of people engaging. Is the data that we collect, does it have the detail? Where is value add? Generally, we find that once clients have dipped the toe in the water, so to speak, that we get two responses. That one, they're absolutely amazed in terms of the data that they get, but two, why wasn't I doing this sooner? I think that COVID, the lockdown, it has challenged people to think differently. How can we do things differently? And it's probably accelerated Iprosurv's capability, in terms of that people are willing to make that step change and go into the unknown. So I'm just hoping from our perspective that we don't kind of take a step back, and that people do continue to embrace and obviously share their experiences with their colleagues too.
Finally, Lisa.
So I think as an industry, we do ourselves a huge disservice if we don't change things after this crisis. So one, you know, it's perhaps a personal perspective, but things I've noticed, I think the pace of change has changed forever. So if I think about how we have traditionally won business, that has been short-circuited, where you just get straight to the point and you show the evidence through execution. I think that is going to be a permanent change in terms of pace. The collaboration has improved, and technology is here to stay. There's no way, I believe, that having seen technology in action, we can then reverse and go back to the way we've always done it. So with that collaboration and technology, I think that will be much better propositions that will benefit the end client. And I think we're going to need to work better with clients together. So we've started on this journey. So how do we take the learning so that as the economy starts to improve, how can we work together? So things I'm thinking about. So where and at what level do we integrate technology as the default? Where do we really need office space, and in what form? And then thinking about talent for the future. Are we looking for the same talent, or is it new areas of expertise? So I think there's only so many areas that we need to think about, but we can't do it in isolation. We need to do it with the client.
And Lisa, you've already touched upon this. I mean, outside of managing the existing clients, how have you found bidding for new business during lockdown? And you've already alluded to it. You're seeing changes of procurement processes, obviously.
Yeah, be no surprise. You know, we have relationships with a good number of carriers and with brokers. So our source of business is those existing relationships, but perhaps doing new things. So, you know, we are their go-to. We have seen a huge demand for business interruption expertise and forensic accountancy services. Unprecedented demand, genuinely, for obvious reasons. We have launched very quickly our own decontamination service, and we're now in discussion with carriers and brokers about what new range of service and propositions can we bring to market to help them help their clients, help the economy. And I really think on technology, we're only just getting going. So I think innovation in technology will bring about changes to the industry.
Becky, do you think procurement's going to be different post-COVID than before?
We undoubtedly receive, we have relationships with our clients, but we also receive quite a lot of recommendations. So we do, at presently, conduct procurement processes remotely, where clients want to ad hocly engage in our services, which then creates a bigger relationship. So to your question, Jonathan, yeah, absolutely. It's something that we do currently. So yeah.
Shirley?
I do wonder whether or not our insurance and brokers partners will be starting to look for something different through the new business process. If you were to look at a scorecard of supplier selection, for want of a better word, now versus what it must have looked like a few years ago, or even, let's face it, 6 months ago, you'd like to think that now there's much more regard taken around business stability and resilience of any supply partner that they're looking for, and the ability for that organisation to weather all kinds of potential impacts on their business model, not just in terms of business continuity from a processing perspective, but in terms of the cash and balance sheet resilience. You'd expect that to be higher, I think. And secondly, let's face it, the digitalisation of every single process that we have, including getting our curry on a Friday night now or other takeaway, has meant that the adoption of technology by customers and the end consumer, whether that's people that were used to technology in their everyday lives, their expectations have probably increased, including those customers that probably come to the market for the first time and have got just the green shoots of confidence. I'd like to think that high on that selection criteria for any supplier would be an organisation that really understands how to deploy tools for the end customer to provide a great experience, not just an okay one, because these customers coming through in the next 6 to 12 months will expect an absolutely great experience.
Finally, Jane.
Yeah, I mean, I concur with pretty much everything that Shirley said. I think the one thing that, I've been fortunate is being in a position where, being part of a global NASDAQ listed company, it's given our clients the reassurance that we have financial protection. And our number one job in this is to manage the asset on behalf of the insurers and to return the highest value we can. And we've been able to demonstrate that now in a virtual space. So before we would engage with our customers, inviting them into one of our operation centres and demonstrating what we do. We've now turned that into a virtual journey. So we've shown them how we interact with them, and we've created sort of more video and a more of a digital experience so that we can kind of pitch in bite-sized chunks. So we can give a bit of an overview of who we are, what we do, the ethos of our company, and then the actual digital journey that we go through, and then how we return value. Because we have the global auction house, and it's patented technology and unique in our environment, and we have global customers that bid for vehicles, and we can actually demonstrate that perhaps better, in fact, in a virtual space, because kind of creating that in a video environment, we have, as Rebecca's alluded to, use some drone technology to show the size and scale of our facilities, and the strength of our balance sheet. So again, there's lots of ways that we've been able to articulate how we operate in our space, and I think that is new and innovative, and it has got people thinking in a different way, and I think that's been really well received, because we were actually going through a tender process when this hit, and we certainly didn't want to derail that process. So we've quickly adapted to how we can show, the service offering that we provide, and still protect the returns on that asset investment. So again, exciting times, I think, and again, a new experience, and I really hope that, you know, we learn from this and it becomes part of our kind of core structure going forward. So again, another area of strengthening, you know, what we do, and yeah, let's hope that pitches can continue. So it's been, yeah, really interesting times.
Perhaps we should all reunite on Teams in a year's time to find out whether these are the kind of the positives of this are actually going to remain positives when we come out the other side.
I think that's a great idea.
I do.
Well, I'd like to thank the people who joined me today. I'd like to thank Jane, Shirley, Lisa, and Becky. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just to remind you all that obviously this is brought to you by Insurance Post and Insurance Age. If you want to subscribe to Insurance Post or register for Insurance Age, then you do so using the tab up here on the heading. Until the next COVID cast, it's goodbye from me and stay safe. Cheerio.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.